Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about Tottenham's 1-1 draw against Frankfurt in the Europa League quarter-final first leg. It is still all to play for, of course. We play the second leg in Germany next week. Ange Postecoglou has just come out and said if we repeat that performance next week, then we give ourselves a real chance. Now, me personally, I felt like Spurs entertained tonight, but we missed out on the reward. Of course, the woodwork didn't help us this evening. Now, we're live on YouTube, live on X, Facebook and Twitch, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Back with me this evening, 3 channel regulars. We've got Craig Dearman back with us. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah. I know we're getting to the football, but better tonight. It was better, so certainly second half. So, yeah, there's lots of positives.
Lots of positives indeed. And we've got 2 positive people here. You got me and Craig who can be grumpy at times. But we've got Mr. Positive here, Ricky Norwood, with us. Rick, how are you?
I am good, my friend. I am good. Good to be on with you, beautiful gentlemen, this evening. Look, man, it's been a good-ish game. There's a lot of positives, I feel. I know we can speak about negatives all day long, but I feel there's a lot to hold on to and a lot to kind of be encouraged by tonight. So can't wait to jump into it with you beautiful people around the world. And make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you do all of the good things, all of you beautiful people, and let's have a good one.
So that was Mr. Positive in the UK, and now we've got Positive in Adelaide, Australia. Blake Darrow's back with us. Blake, how are you?
Guys, Chris, Craig, my London brother Ricky, going pretty well, guys. Hope you all are too. Pleasure to be asked here to star-studded lineup. Honestly, I'm not sure what I've done to deserve this, but I'm in an esteemed company, and yeah. Nevertheless, let's get stuck in.
Let's get stuck in indeed. As I said, Tottenham Hotspur 1, Frankfurt 1. Of course, it wasn't the best of starts for Spurs, going 1-0 down after just 6 minutes, and then Pedro Porro equalising for Spurs in the 26th minute. Now, the match facts and stats here, Spurs had 56.7% of the ball to Frankfurt's 43.3%. Shots, Spurs had 10 to Frankfurt's 4. Shots on target, Spurs 6, Frankfurt 2. Touches in the opposition box, Spurs 32, Frankfurt only 13. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 1, Frankfurt 5. Fouls, Spurs 14, Frankfurt 15. And corners, Spurs 9, Frankfurt 3. Interesting stats here. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 1, Frankfurt 5. And diving saves, Spurs 1, Frankfurt 3. Craig, going to come to you first. Let's get your thoughts on the game, because as I said, I felt like Spurs entertained today, but we just missed out on the reward. Is a 1-1 draw good enough to take to Frankfurt next week?
I was more intrigued by that stat, diving saves. I've never seen that listed before anywhere. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
I've got 5 new stats today if you want them all.
I love a stat. I love a stat. I'm not sure, if I'm honest. I don't want to start on the downer, but I said before the game that in my opinion, I think we needed to take a lead into next week. I know most clubs will say that when the second leg is away from home, but I just think, I just hope it doesn't come back to bite us next week, because I was a bit concerned. Although obviously we had the more chances, and Vicario had very little to do other than obviously pick the ball out of the net for their goal. I think it's going to be different next week with Frankfurt being at home, and I'm just a bit concerned about our front 3. Johnson seems to either play really well and score, or just doesn't really not do much, I would say, because he was actually working tonight. But it does worry me a bit that Solanke's not getting many chances. I'll be honest. When your centre forward isn't getting many chances, it does concern me. And obviously Sonny didn't score tonight. I had one chance, I think, that I can remember in the second half, that curling shot, which was the old Son type of shot, saved by the keeper. So I hope I'm wrong. I just would have preferred, obviously, to take a lead into next week, even if it was one goal. I think there was probably disappointment from the players as well. They knew that you can see the images there for people watching on YouTube and Twitter, and that the players obviously disappointed not to be winning that game tonight. But we're still in the tie, which is the most important thing. I would say it could have been worse, but I think Frankfurt, to be honest, very counter-attacking team. They miss Marmouche, the lad up front that scored their goal. He's going to be a really good player in a few years to come, even though he is now, to be fair. But overall, it's not a disaster. It was a really good second half performance. They certainly did put on a show, Tottenham. The quick passing seemed to be back in that second half. It was just a shame in that period, 10, 15 minutes, where we was all over them, having shots hitting the bar, that we just couldn't get another goal. So, as I say, I hope it doesn't come back to bite us. But I say, not a disaster at all. And it's going to be an interesting game next week.
Ricky, let's get your thoughts on this evening's game. Do you feel positive after watching that? Do you feel positive going into next week? And what do you make of the overall performance? Because it does, and like Craig said, I don't want to be negative here, but it just seemed a little bit disappointing that we haven't got the win tonight to go to Germany, feeling that little bit more confident, because a 1-1 draw, is it enough for you?
You know what? I think we all wanted the win, and I think, Craig, you're absolutely right, and Chris, you're absolutely right in the sense that we wanted to take a lead going into Germany. It would make us all feel a little bit more confident going away from home. They've got a rocking stadium. They've got a style of play that they're kind of drilled in as well. So it's a cup tie, so you want to go in with as much advantage as you can. But there are so many good things to take from tonight, I feel. Yes, it was 1-1. Okay, fine. But I remember the first leg of the AZ game. And that, for me, I was really disappointed in that first leg, right? I thought we were on a spiral, even more so than we already was at that moment in time. It was this cup that is our last hope, chance, whatever you want to call it. And I felt that they didn't turn up in that first leg, and I thought it was really disappointing. It was a punch in the gut. They came back in that second leg and put on a show at the Tottenham Stadium, and we went through. And we're here right now, right? And this first leg, what I was really encouraged by was the energy in which the boys were playing. They went out there with fire, and they went out there with a will to go and get something from this game and go and make it happen, go and win the game. When we went 1-0 down after 5 minutes, and it was the same old story where we was trying to find our passing. We came out G'd up. We was trying to find our passing, but it wasn't happening. There were loose balls happening left, right, and centre, and we was allowing the counter attack. And their goal was almost like a FIFA goal, like a goal I would score on FIFA. It was like 1-2 touch. The gap was there. I saw it, but it was a beautiful goal for them. The one thing that they didn't do that I done at home was drop my head and think, oh no, here we go. Yes, they had some opportunities. Yes, they passed through our lines at times, on their counter attack. But there was a fight. There was an aggression. Romero, Van der Ven, they were up for it. Look at the runs that Romero is making. He was all over the place. Look at what a difference the strength and that pace of Van der Ven, but his intelligence too, made in that back line. There was a lot going on. I thought Maddison played really well. I thought that he's jinking and he's janking confused players and created that goal for Porro. Had a very heavy hand in it. So, and in that second half, where we was peppering them, we was all over them, possession-wise and shot-wise. And if it wasn't for the bar, and if it wasn't for that keeper having a bit of a Shea Giver moment, then I think that we could have easily come away with a 2-1, 3-1. I think that they were scared in that second half. I think when it got to the later minutes, you saw them start bringing on subs to start trying to waste time in stoppage time to try and get that game done and dusted, because they were like, oh, Tottenham are going to do something here. Let's break it up as much as we can and take a draw to their house. So I think all of those are positives. And I think that in this momentum, we've had a momentum of negativity for so long, even when we've won at times, this big cloud of negativity, which some say is warranted, some say is over the top. It doesn't matter. It's been surrounding us for so long that right now to see them fight and see them stand and see them really want to win all the way up into that last whistle tonight. You know, look at the free kick that happened at the end. Look at the Van der Ven header that if he just got a little closer, there was so many opportunities and they wanted it. And look how disappointed they were when we finished 1-1. Look at how disappointed Madison and Sonny were to come off the bench, to come off the field and sit on the bench. So all of those things I think is exciting, and I think that is encouraging. Not so much exciting, but encouraging. And I think it's something we can get behind. You know, these players are coming back from injury. They are finding their feet. We saw a better Udogi today. You know, he wasn't fantastic, but he was a lot better than we've seen in previous weeks. So they're getting there. I think there's a lot to be encouraged by. So I'm happy that we go into that next leg with a bit more encouragement because they didn't scare me. I wasn't scared. Ekitike, you know, I can't say his name. I can't say it. I've tried it. I can't say it. Ekitike, I can't say it. Right. He's great. I think he's going to be a good striker. And I think he's a good striker right now. But apart from that, mate, I think that there was more that worried them rather than them worrying us. And I think that's for positive going into next week.
Ricky, have we done enough, though, to go through to the next round, do you think?
It's not the second leg yet. So, you know, we're at halftime at 1-1. Who's to say? For me to say a definite yes or no doesn't make sense because we've got another 90 minutes to come. Is it going to be tougher? Yes. Do we always do it the hard way? Tell me another time. Tell me another cup run that we've had that we ain't done it the hard way.
What I should have said is, you know, Ange said if we repeat that performance next week, then we give ourselves a real chance. That is exactly the sort of performance we need again next week.
Yeah.
Of course, it is going to be very difficult. You know, I've been to Frankfurt Stadium before in the Champions League under Conte a couple of years ago, and that place was absolutely rocking. It was a 0-0 draw that evening, but that place is incredible. Probably one of the best atmospheres I've ever witnessed. Going to, you know, football matches, seeing Spurs, you know, away from home, one of the best. It's going to be difficult next week.
But we've gone up against, we've had along this journey, like, look, we've gone against adversity. We've gone against massive disappointment in going out other cup competitions. We've gone up against the Galatasaray crowd. And yes, it wasn't a great performance there, but, you know, we've had these experiences of tough atmospheres. You know, so this is your moment where you stand in these competitions. You can't just have it all your own way.
Yeah.
You've got to go through adversity, and now you've got to come out victorious. Now you've got to come out fighting. Now you've got to come out showing everybody what you're about, what you play football for. Don't tell me you want to go to a Champions League team next year when the transfer window opens, when you had the opportunity to get there and earn it for yourself. These are these moments.
Yeah,
our away form does bother me though. I mean, do you know what I mean? It's got to be a performance next week. It's got to be a performance next week.
It has to be.
I suppose I was kind of skirting around that fact, Craig. Didn't want to come across as too negative, but like I keep saying, you know, do these players, does this squad this season want to be remembered for finishing, you know, mid-table, 14th in the Premier League, or do they want to be heroes? So go out there and give absolutely everything in this competition because what an opportunity we have. Blake, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game. I know you're a very positive guy. You've been very positive on this channel every single time you've come on. Positive for you this evening?
Yeah, plenty of positives. And I think that just tying into that point as well, I think, do the players want to be remembered for finishing 14th? Do they want to be remembered for winning the Europa League? I think it's the latter, of course. And also, they can make a name for themselves, and nobody would remember a 14th place finish. There's no way if you lift the trophy. So that's probably the really positive thing. I think the immediate reaction for me, we played with high intensity, played with pragmatism, which has been called for a few times, and you need to play that way when there's a mid to low block there. Honestly, if you take away that first goal that we can see, which was an absolute pearl of finish, let's be honest about it, that was an absolute peach. It was a high possession and high octane level of football. Look, it's no secret that it's our last chance to get something happening and to salvage our season, but I think we've got to take away the positives wherever we can. And players didn't quite take their opportunities today, but you can see that the opportunities are there and the chances are there. And what was it that anyone once said? One shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, one moment. So, bit of rap in there. And the best part is we didn't lose ourselves tonight. So I think that's really important to remember. And, a couple of chances just didn't quite go our way there. Hit the crossbar a couple of times. I thought Bergvall shot a goal there in the second half where it hit the post. It was just it was so close. It was so close. And I got out of my seat here on the couch and I thought, oh, here we go. Like, we're on here if this goes in, and it just hits the bottom of the bar. But not to be, and that's the fine margins in football. But honestly, there's a lot to take away, a lot of positives to take away. Be interesting to see how we rotate in the Wolves game to try and give some guys some rest and so that we can be really fresh for this second leg. Yeah. But as you guys have said, it's half time. It's half time. We can really go after this. And I think the players and all involved have to ask themselves, how do we want to be remembered this season? And I think this is the first step towards greatness. And Lazio going 2-0 down as well, it could open the door for us in the semi-final if we can get there. So a few things to take into account.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week's second leg in Germany, I must say. But of course, Blake, as you mentioned, we've got that Wolves game away from home on Sunday in the Premier League, and it is going to be very interesting how he rotates. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We've heard from you guys what you think of the game. We're now going to hear for the next 5.5 minutes from Ange Postecoglou. This is his post-match press conference.
And
I guess a little bit frustrated by the result, obviously, but I thought the performance in general was really, really good by the boys. We obviously conceded early, which wasn't ideal, and it was a fair strike by the lad. And but I thought our response to that was really good. We stayed in control. We scored a good equaliser, and we made them work hard in the first half. So we kind of knew that second half, with our ability to break teams open, we'd put them under pressure, and it's exactly what happened. And the boys did everything right. I can't ask any more of them. I mean, I think we've hit the crossbar 3 times. The keeper's pulled off some amazing saves, and Sofno had a couple of good opportunities as well. So on any other night, we'd have a comfortable victory. But I still think if we can perform like that over there, and there's no reason why we can't, then we'll still give ourselves a good chance.
Yeah, and is there another positive as well? That's something you've not had pretty much all season. Options off the bench if it does potentially go all the way.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I thought the guys coming on today made a difference, injected some energy. And like I said, it could be tight next week, could go into extra time, and we're going to need everyone ready to go. And the beauty of it is at the moment we've got we've got a squad ready to go, and I think that'll be important next week as well.
Can I just check on Destiny? It looked like you were kind of signalling to see if he was all right.
Yeah, he's got cramp. He was unbelievable today. I thought he was incredible. The amount of running he did, but his effectiveness, he's just incredible. But he was just cramping up, and he'll be fine.
How good has Lucas been? He sort of took the game by the scruff of the neck in that second half. How impressive is that for his age?
Yeah, I think he was great, brother. The whole team was. I think our midfield. I thought Roger was outstanding. Both fullbacks defensively and with the ball were really causing them problems. Kuti and Mickey handled their front sort of threats really well. Apart, obviously the goal we conceded was kind of the only disappointing bit. And then the front three were working. With Matters were really creative. You can't ask any more than what the lads did. Particularly in that second half, to create that many chances in a game of football. We don't get the win, but I can't ask any more of the players. Yeah, no, it was something that we obviously work on. Just getting into those areas in in the box in terms of the half spaces, and Matt, as we know, is really creative in there. And obviously, with Don was the one that received it, so there was a gap there at the near post, and we've always said that we kind of need the next person in line to attack that area, and Pedro happened to be that. And outstanding finish. And if you look at it, Brennan's where he's supposed to be. He's at the far post. The ball went through, and we had I think Lucas on the edge of the box. So it was a well worked goal, and I think one we deserved definitely. But we had some fantastic moves in the second half. It's just that we weren't able to capitalise on it. Yeah, I think like I said, if we can repeat that next week, and there's no reason why we can't, then we'll give ourselves a good chance. Because I really felt like we sort of totally sort of overwhelmed them with our football, with our running, with our press, and it wasn't just the chances we created, but even the chances that we almost created. I mean, on any other night. But look, it's going to be that sort of season. Nothing's going to come to us easy. We're going to have to go over there and fight now for to get what I thought we deserved tonight, and that's what we'll try and do.
Did you sort of wait till late to make the changes because that cohesion was so good, and was that almost to get the boys getting used to playing together again?
Yeah, I thought we were well in control, well on top. We were creating chances, but I was in the back of my mind. I knew that especially on that left-hand side, the boys had worked really hard, and with guys like Matty and Jed and Pape coming on, I thought we could really go at them, and they almost pulled off an unbelievable move again. With Matty playing it to Jed and Jed to Brennan, and almost carbon copy of the weekend, but we just weren't able to nail it.
Hi, Ange. It's Boris from Antenna 5. So, in all fairness, you can say that you can be confident that you can finish the job in Frankfurt next week. And I've got a question about Richarlison. We saw him for a couple of minutes. Is he going to get more minutes in the games that are coming?
Yeah, look, I think with Richie and a couple of others, I think it's good to get him out there. Obviously, we've got a game on the weekend. People like Richie and others will get more game time there, and hopefully that'll get them in a position where, like I said, next week, you don't know, may go into extra time, and we may need, some pretty big efforts from guys, and it was good to get Richie some minutes today.
And we sort of cursing the football gods at the end there. I think Mickey headed the ball onto his foot, and then that's why it's kind of gone over.
No, like I said, George, I'm resigned to the fact that the football gods have got their eyes elsewhere this year. They're obviously busy with other clubs and other managers, so whatever we get, we're going to have to do it without them this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your reaction to Ange's comments there, especially about the football gods. But what I wanted to ask you about this performance, Ange just said a number of times, when we get all of our players back, we will be an outstanding team. Now, you as a Spurs fan, do you have the confidence that we are going to be a different team, a winning team from now until the end of the season, not only going all the way to the final in the Europa League, but performance-wise and results-wise in the Premier League for us to move up that Premier League table? Do you feel confident in that way?
I must admit I don't. It's just going on the last few performances. There's something missing. There is something missing. And I sad to say, for a team that scores so many goals, it is the front three for me. That's where a bulk of our problems are, because Ange sets up his teams to outscore other teams, and that's absolutely fine if you're actually doing it. But when you're not doing it and you're conceding goals, that's where we've fallen foul this year. I thought the defence was actually okay tonight, apart from the goal. Maddison lost the ball, which we'll come on to. Maddison lost the ball in the middle of the park, quick counter-attack and a great finish. But it was down that right side again. And people moan about Porro. Yeah, I don't think Porro actually had his best game today. It's a great goal, but
I agree.
He comes forward a fair bit, and that's obviously what he's being told to do. But somebody's got to cover him. And Bentancur, I thought, was outstanding tonight. It generally fell to him, but he can't be everywhere. So when we're on the break and there's a transition and there's a turnover, it just, there was so much space again tonight. And again, that's fine if we're outscoring teams, but we're not. So in answer to your question, I'm not confident this is going to turn our season around. It wasn't a season turning around performance. But it was certainly a decent performance, especially in the second half. But I'll come back to it. We've got to start taking our chances and scoring goals. And I want to see Solanke getting more chances, because the bloke works like you wouldn't believe. I've never seen a centre forward work as hard as he does for years, actually, compared to somebody like Haaland. He works incredibly hard, but I want my centre forward to be in the box scoring goals, and he hasn't scored for. I'm not even going to say. Then they did say on the telly how long it's been since he scored. Obviously, he was out injured for a while, but he needs to start scoring goals, and the front three really need to start scoring more goals, because I'm like I say, I'd have much preferred, obviously, like the rest of us, to have a lead going into Germany next week. It's going to be an incredibly tough game, and if we do go out, that's our season done. But it would just be such a really lovely story if we can somehow get to that final. Because I think, and I said all along, if we get through this quarter, we're going to get through the semi, and then the final is a different kettle of fish. But we've got to get through next Thursday.
Ricky, I've got to ask you about Ange Postecoglou because there have been many frustrating times, especially on this podcast, during this season, and you have been one person throughout the whole of the season that has been completely behind the manager. And you've been very sympathetic towards the injuries and the issues that we've had at the football club, but you've been 100% behind Ange Postecoglou when many haven't. And I feel like week by week, whatever's happened, whether it's press conferences or Ange, confrontations with fans, etc., I feel like week by week he has actually lost more fans. The Tottenham fan base. What's your reaction to Ange's press conference there? And also what I wanted to ask, what's your reaction to Ange Postecoglou himself in this last month or so?
Emotional. A man under pressure. A guy that even when he does something good, there's a negative surrounded by it. I think, whether it be refs, because sometimes, or VAR, there's been external issues as well that haven't helped at times and have just kind of laid on top of each other. Now, some of the performances have not been good. We can't lose as many games as we can lose that we have in the league this season. So some of them were really horrendous, terrible losses, and there's more to answer for than injuries and circumstance. But I think there's a combination of those things, and I think that even like this week, you saw the manager when he came out to do his midweek press conference. He was already prickly. He was already ready to fight whoever asked him the first question. And that's, I feel, is because even like the noise on X, formerly known as Twitter, and the noise online and the press love it as well. They love jabbing Tottenham. They always have and they always will. I mean, the last 2 days I've seen 4 players linked with Real Madrid and Barcelona. And do you know what I mean? Before a game. And look, whoever it is, it doesn't. But look at the negative outputs and look at the negative kind of seeds that are being planted. And some we do ourselves and they jump on it left, right, and centre. Ange has been known ever since he was working in Australia for the kids, the Australia. He's known for biting back at presenters and journalists, and he's known for that. That's always been him, right? So he's always been a guy that's willing to fight his own corner. And I think that this season has just been repeated like punches in the face and then in the gut and in the face and in the gut. And this man has still stood for us. And he still said, like, look, I want to do better. Do you know what I mean? I want this team to be successful. I want these things to change, and I want it to go the right way. And there's been many, I think, circumstances of why those things haven't happened. Now, we could sit here and speak about it all night. I'm not going to. You all know I could. But I think that's what's showing on his face, and you see that frustration. But what it shows to me, like psychologically, it shows me how much heart that he has in being a manager and being successful and transferring his way of play and changing the game. Because if he didn't feel nothing and if he was over it after all of the beatings of this season, you would see a man that had no fight in him, that had no prickliness in him, and that had no reason to go, I'll prove you all wrong, which he's done his whole career. Do you know what I mean? So I take those things into account as well. But you hear him and he's always the only one standing up for his own little corner. I mean, there's only so much a man can take. He's been asked week in, week out about other managers taking his job. Do you know what I mean? How do you feel about this one taking it? How do you feel about that one taking it? As soon as they asked Pochettino over in America about Tottenham, and we all know what he was going to say. Of course, he wants to come back to Tottenham at some stage, but he wasn't saying that I'll take the job right now. And etc., etc. But the way that, you know, it just gave a journalist an opportunity to ask that question to his face. And it just seems that ever since he stood up to them, to the press, and started biting back a little bit more a couple of months ago, maybe 3-4 months ago now, ever since then, it's like some have been, you know, tetchy and kind of apprehensive about asking a question, but some are kind of happy to kind of just chuck a couple of jabs in there because they're easy. And, you know, it's a question that has to be asked. Or I don't know how you frame it. But there's only so much somebody can take, you know?
I was going to say, Rick, I suppose what a lot of people have been upset with in the last couple of weeks is the cupping of the year at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And of course, the fans, he doesn't really talk about the fans in the same way that he did last year. And I feel like he's quite annoyed with the fan base. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I think both of those things you're probably reading right. It doesn't mean that he's not here still standing, but I think there was a moment last season, that Man City game, that Man City game where if we lost it, then it would potentially stop the Gooners from winning the league. And I understand Tottenham, I really do. But I think at that moment there broke him. And for me personally, I don't really like, I don't involve any Gooner stuff in my life. Do you know what I mean? I don't care about them. I don't care what they win. I don't care what they achieve. They're very little in my thinking day to day. Do you know what I mean? And part of that is because I got beat with that Gooner stick throughout my growing up, you know, when they were very, very successful. So I block it out. I don't partake, you know. But like there's just a part of us that needs to kind of just concentrate on us for a minute. You know, it's really tough. I know what I'm saying. It's more philosophy than actually talking any sense right now, but it's really tough, man. And I do feel for him. I can see the plan, and I can see that if everything comes together, it could work. And this is their opportunity. This is their opportunity to prove everybody wrong. And you know what Craig was saying about, I'm going all over the place now, but you know what Craig was saying about, like, there's something missing. It is that little bit of belief. It is that click in this team, because we've gone through so much. There's apprehension instead of belief, instead of knowing that was going to happen. And I saw moments of that throughout the 90. We grew into the game after that first goal conceded. And then in that second half, we wasn't having it. We were like, let's go. And we grew in that 90. And that's why I'm encouraged by it. We need to keep that going to change the momentum.
Blake, let's come to you.
Sorry.
No,
it's
very easy to go off on different subjects. It's so easy to do so, Ricky. I know we're not even on the starting 11 yet, and we're almost over half an hour in. Blake, let's get your thoughts on Ange Postecoglou, because of course you are in Australia. I know a lot of people will probably shout now, well, Australians are always going to back Ange Postecoglou, but how are you feeling about Ange Postecoglou and your reaction to the press conference? Because he said there, frustrated by the result, the performance was good. We've already said that on the podcast so far. He spoke about individual players there. Destiny Udogie called incredible. Lucas Bergvall, he always bigs him up, and rightly so. He's been a sensation for us this season and a real shining light. And he also said Bentancur was outstanding. You mentioned the pressing. Craig mentioned the pressing earlier. I thought our pressing was excellent this evening, and this is exactly the sort of performance we need to go far in the Europa League. And as I said earlier, and I'll keep going back to this comment, podcast by podcast, you know, especially when we play in the Premier League as well, that Ange said many, many times, when we get all of our players back, we will be an outstanding team, because we know on our day we can be an outstanding team. Because I had many, many interesting conversations before the game at the stadium. Many Spurs fans spoke to me and said, what do you think? And I said, do you know what? I know that we can play really well on our day. But then, of course, we know we have seen some really poor performances and results this season. So who knows? And of course, when on this podcast, we do all of the score predictions at the end. It's funny, I ask all you guys, and then occasionally one of you say, what do you think? And I say, no idea. Because last season to this season, it does feel very different, Blake, doesn't it? But at the same time, it's such an opportunity to go far in this competition and perhaps put a trophy in the cabinet. But I suppose in short, what are the Australians over there feeling about Ange Postecoglou and the situation at the minute?
Yeah, it is a tricky one because we've seen this happen wherever he goes, and I think like it's initially a bit prickly, and I think the prickliness comes from a place of passion and heart, and I think that gets misread by a lot of fans as he's biting back at journalists, he's doing this, he's doing that. That's just who he is. It's who we are, mate. You know, in a way, and I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but he's just a very passionate football person. And if you've read, I'm not sure if you gents have read the book. That was written by a Scottish journalist from his time at Celtic and into Spurs. But it's a brilliant read. I'd encourage everyone to read it if you do want to understand Ange Postecoglou in a deeper way. But the big thing that took my eye in terms of his passion was he had a big bunch of mates over from Australia. You know, they came to the game and Celtic went down. They lost and they were supposed to go out for dinner that night. And he said to his wife, Georgie, I'm not going out. And they said, well, why aren't you going out? And, you know, like, come on, all your friends have made the trip over here. They've traveled a whole day to get here. Why aren't you going out? No, I just don't feel like it. And he ponders on losses, and he really thinks about losses. And, you know, the staring down at the floor is probably a big sense of disappointment. So he probably takes it a lot harder than even passionate fans do. So I think I just wanted to add that part in as well, because, you know, at presses he can bite back, and, you know, we obviously know the famous Craig Foster video where he was in charge of the under-20 Socceroos side, and he was ambushed in that one big time. And I think that's context is always very important. So there's a few things when he goes into press conferences that might upset fans from time to time. And the cupping of the year, I think that was perhaps more, that wasn't so much about, you know, him, you know, saying to the fans that, you know, I got it right. It was very much silencing the Chelsea fans, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. It's what it looked like on the telly when I saw it. But, you know, I think it comes from a place of passion. And his press conference tonight had some really good points. Bentancur was outstanding. We know Bergvall was outstanding. There were moments that we just didn't quite take and didn't capture. And I think the thing for him as a coach to polish up on now is just playing that 90 minutes consistently. I think we dropped in and out of the game a few times. If that 90 minutes can be really stable and solid in Germany on Thursday, as Ange said, there's absolutely no reason that we can't go there and get a result and progress to a semi-final.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your opinions on the starting 11 this evening. Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Bentancur, Maddison, Bergvall, Johnson, Son and Solanke. And it was the first time that the back five, Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, started the same game since the 27th of October. An incredible stat, that. Of course, two changes from the Southampton game. Mickey Van der Ven and Udogie returning to the side. Ben Davis and Jed Spence dropping to the bench. A very strong bench this evening, by the way. Austin, Whiteman, Spence, Davis, Gray, Basuma, Sarr, Moore, Odegaard, Tell and Richarlison. And as Ange mentioned there, as he was asked by a couple of journalists about possible extra time next week, and as Blake also mentioned, it's going to be very interesting how, you know, Ange does rotate and who the starting 11 is on Sunday against Wolves, because let's face it, we do need, you know, wins in the Premier League to climb up that Premier League table. But this game next week in Germany is so important for this season and for the football club, and of course us fans and Ange Postecoglou. Your thoughts on the starting 11 today? How are you feeling when that come out?
I thought it was a bit rough on Spence, seeing as you could argue that he's been our player of the season so far. So I was a bit gutted not to see Spence in there, whether that be for Porro or Udogie. I would have expected it would have been for Udogie, but who knows? Who knows? He can play left and right, and arguably set some of his best games on the left. Apart from that, I think Bergvall, Bentancur, and Maddison in the middle. Probably about right. Sarr could probably feel like he's not had many minutes lately and a bit hard done by. But perhaps he was using Sarr as impact substitute off the bench with his fitness. Apart from that, it's probably as you would have chosen Odegaard, possible, but I know he had a slight twinge in his hamstring, I believe, so not surprising that he didn't start. Tell hasn't pulled up any trees, so I could see why Ange went with Johnson, Solanke, and Son. What I would say is I don't know what Mikey Moore has to do to get a game. He hasn't played for ages. I would like to have seen him get a chance, but perhaps he's thinking it's a too big a game for him. But from what I've seen of Mikey Moore, I think he's proved he can hold his own. So I'm surprised he didn't get brought on, to be honest with you. What was slightly disappointing was taking off Maddison. I've been obviously critical of Maddison this season, but I thought he had a reasonable game, especially second half. He was trying to move the ball quickly, open up passes through for the wingers. Always wanted the ball, which I like to see in a creative midfielder, not hiding. Surprised to see Maddison go off, especially in the game where you think that Ange would know, same as us, that you'd actually want to take a lead to Germany. I didn't think Son had his strongest game. He weren't terrible, but I don't think he had his strongest game. So arguments to bring more in there. But as for the starting lineup, come back to it. The only one that I really thought was a bit harsh was on Spence, to be honest. I'm surprised he didn't bring him on a bit earlier. But apart from that, probably you could argue, give or take a player or two, is our strongest lineup available.
Craig, I know we've spoken at length on this podcast, and of course, a number of Spurs fans speak about this on a daily basis as well. But we always talk about Ange Postecoglou. He receives a lot of the criticism, but these players, like I said to Blake there, about stepping up and wanting to be heroes if we win this competition. They've got to step up, haven't they? In these types of games. You mentioned James Maddison there. Good performance from him today. But they've got to do it. They've got to put this shift in every single time now.
They have, yeah, and especially Maddison. He said himself he's the one that wants to make us tick, and if he plays like that next week, then we've got a chance. We have got a chance. But and I don't know the situation on Kulusevski. I think we've missed him. I think we could really do with him back next week. That would be really good to see him perhaps get some minutes on Sunday. I think we'll see some changes on Sunday as well. So, what do you do with Mickey van der Ven Sunday? That'll be an interesting one. Does he play Mickey van der Ven on Sunday? Because that's his first 90 minutes in a while, isn't it? So, it's a difficult one. For me, I want to see us go all out for this. Yes, of course, I want to see us climb that Premier League table, but by the same stretch, I think we are safe. We know we're safe in the Premier League. And I've always talked about momentum, but I just think next Thursday's game, every game in that competition is the biggest game of our season.
Yeah.
And next Thursday is the biggest, so we can't blow it. We've got to go for it next week and do what we have to do to protect any players.
And it's funny, even before I started doing this podcast, everyone who knows me, friends, family, etc., they will know that I always say that I always want to see the strongest possible 11 in every single game that we play. But I tell you what, this is probably the first time I'm ever going to say this. Rest your key players against Wolves on Sunday, because you're absolutely right, Craig. Next Thursday's game is absolutely vital. Ricky, let's come to you on the starting 11, because that stat that I mentioned there, the back five, Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, started this game, started the same game for the first time since the 27th of October. That is nearly 6 months. We often talk about injuries, but that is an incredible stat, isn't it?
It is, but it's a reflection of our season. I mean, look at that. And please, every single Tottenham fan out there, remember when that back 4/5, including Vicario, were at their best, and they were flying at times. Yes, we still lost games with them, but 8 out of 10 times they were flying. So we're getting back to that, and it's good to see that. It's good to see that, and it was good to see that we had some options to come off the bench. I totally agree with what Craig was saying there about Spence in the starting lineup. He has been our game changer. He has been the one that has kind of wanted the ball and wanted to make things happen. He has switched off at times, which we have conceded goals to a couple of times. So I don't know whether that was what it was about tonight, whether he wanted Udogie in there to be the more, even though he runs forward a lot, but to be the more defensive sided one, or to just see, he's seen him in training and he's getting back up to what he used to be at his best. Spencer's in form, but remember what your doggy was doing when he was also flying. So yeah, totally agree with that. And you know what? When we talk about kind of rotation for Wolves, right now, whoever comes in has got a great opportunity. It's almost like an audition. It's almost like a way to kind of force your way into the thinking for Thursday coming up. You know, so those that do come in, and to be fair, for a lot of the time this year, Chris, and we've spoken about this before, those that have come in that have needed to step up and take their opportunity and take their chance have done. To be fair to them, they have done, right? So now we're getting to the point where this is actually an audition for a pretty much nailed on final-ish. You know, next week it's not final, but you know what I mean. It's all or nothing next week, right? 1-1, all or nothing. We go poised in. So whoever does come in, if Tell starts, if Moore starts, you know, if Richarlison starts, if Gray comes into the midfield for Bentancur, if Davies comes in for Van der Ven, you know, whoever comes in, if Spence starts against Wolves, again, he's been outstanding. I think he's grown week in, week out. But again, another moment to kind of solidify yourself and kind of go, I need to be in this team. You have to put me in this team. Make it undeniable. And I think that's what's really exciting coming up right now, playing against Wolves, whoever comes into that game.
I was going to mention that, Ricky, because that bench does seem pretty strong in all areas. And
for the first time.
Yeah, and Andrew said this a lot, that he uses the word impact a lot, that a lot of those players have made a real impact coming off the bench. You know, when you look at that bench, how strong that is, because the energy, we're going to need more energy in that game. You know, Ange has spoken, you know, this evening a couple of times and said about possible extra time in Germany next week, and we're going to need that energy, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And you know, the way that these players have been managed as they've come back, their times and stuff like that, has been really clever. You know, to get them to the point where they're close to 100% fitness when they're coming towards these games. So they have been rotating and they have been playing with some of the starting 11s to prepare for these moments. So it's that time, and someone like Starr, who's got an engine on him left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And if we look at his goals this year, I don't know how many he's scored, but the majority of them have been outside the box. And I don't know how many goals we've scored from outside the box this year, but he is definitely an option to do that, as well as be an engine all around that midfield and cover the back line as well, and play the way that we need to play sometimes. And also, if you look at that bench as well, no Timo Werner, nowhere to be seen. We haven't even heard of him. And again,
I saw him in the stands walking around today, so he's there.
Oh,
but,
so I mean,
but yes,
what did they do? Put him to work? Did they put him behind the bar? Is that what they done? You're out of order. Was he your barman in your box, Chris?
No,
see, I knew it.
He missed the order.
Did he? Surely not.
That's hilarious. Oh no, but do you know what I mean? It's like we've come so far. I think the reason that Ange re-signed him, right? Re-signed Timu. Timu. I called him Timu. Anyway, the reason he signed Werner again was for the emergency moments. I think he was supposed to be the very last option and somebody with experience to come in, you know, and do a job for us for a short amount of time if the tsunami of the tidal wave hits the fan and everything is at rock bottom. And that's where we was for so long. But look at us now. He's nowhere near it. Look, you know, Moore on the bench, Tell on the bench, Richarlison on the bench, Odegaard on the bench. That's nice. Spence on the bench. That's nice. That's a nice place to be. So, so yeah, you know, we're moving in the right direction. But we needed this, and we need this competition as a pressure release. The pressure is on all of us. You know, the fact that the Gooners won the other night, I haven't seen so many Tottenham fans depressed already because they won. Stop concentrating on them. Like, stop giving them anything. Do you know
I agree.
what I mean? Like, stop giving them anything. Don't stop letting them have a hold over what makes you happy or what makes you frustrated or angry or sad. Stop that, man. Like, let's just for this competition, let's breathe a bit. Let's lay it out because my goodness, we know bad times. We know bad momentum. We've been here so many times. There's a possibility of some light at the end of a tunnel here. Do you know what I mean? There's a possibility of a silver lining. So let's encourage them during this moment. And to be fair, I thought the crowd were good. They kept fighting back. But Chris, we need to start a petition to get our drum and our trumpet player back, mate. I am telling you. What is it with these German sides with their drum? It was like they took over the stadium. When we was in Hoffenheim, they done the same. We need our drum back, mate. We need our drum back in the stadium.
Why did I think you were going to say we need a petition to keep Timo Werner in the bar?
Oh, you got to be crazy.
Poor old Timo. Poor old Timo.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I tell you what, you talking about Arsenal fans, it's funny, isn't it? Gary said to us all the other night about he's hearing from all these Arsenal fans on his phone. I don't hear from any Arsenal fans, and there's no Arsenal fans in my phone book.
Well, it's Gazza for you, isn't it? He's a man of the people, he is.
Yeah.
Blake, anybody gives him a Haribo, he's his best mate. Do you know what I mean? So...
I know. Blake, let's come to you. Before we talk about the match instance, let's get your thoughts on the starting 11, because I know we'll talk a little bit about the rotation for the Wolves game on Sunday. But when that team lineup came out, were you happy? Did you think that this is the team that are going to get this job done? And, let's talk about that stat again, that back five. And they haven't started a game for nearly 6 months together.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy in all honesty to think about it. And I think there was a stat going around at one point. They've only actually, that back five have only played less than 20 games together. And in those times, there's only been 2 losses. So when you put that into perspective, it's way less than 20. I think it might even be 18 or 17 matches. So when you put that into perspective, we know that our best back five can match it there. Now, obviously, what adds into the mix now is Spence coming into that. He's obviously in great form. He's in conversations with England, obviously, to be playing international football. So he does add a dynamic to our back five that I think is really important. And I think I agree with Craig and Rick about just a bit disappointed not to see him starting. But I do see where we were coming from there. We needed that explosiveness of Udogie. And obviously, in hindsight, it was probably a good thing that Porro started because he did score that wonderful goal. But I think overall, it doesn't get much stronger than that. We've obviously got Kulusevski to come back in too, which will add things on the right. Perhaps he comes in for Johnson. I don't like slating Johnson because he's been scoring goals. He's our top goal scorer this season. And there's obviously some really positive signs there for him. I just think we didn't feed the ball enough to him tonight. And perhaps if Cooley's there, it's a bit more commanding. He's a bit front-footed and he's very forward-thinking. So perhaps that adds a bit of an extra dimension to our lineup. But you're right, that bench was really strong. We didn't have much to complain about, and we really did put the excuses aside and put in a good performance tonight. Did we get the result? No, we didn't. But I thought it was a good enough 11 to do so tonight. And I think if we try to rotate through against Wolves, and maybe it is Mikey Moore getting a bit of an opportunity against Wolves, because what is it? As Craig said, what does he have to do to get into this side? And I think that the answer is to try and bust the door down and get a start against Wolves and have a good shift. I think that's how they've all got to have this mindset going into this second leg is what have I got to do to hold my spot? And even someone like Matters coming off, he was obviously gutted because he's a great playmaker and all that kind of stuff. But it's someone had to make way for things to change and to roll the dice a little to try and get a score. So, and it wasn't going to be Bentancur because he had an outstanding game going by his stats too. So I think all in all, he got the 11 right. I think the subs probably a little bit sooner, but probably being a little bit overcritical. Otherwise, I thought he nailed the 11 tonight.
Yeah, for me personally, Blake, I actually think that these last couple of games, Ange Postecoglou has used the squad extremely well, especially the subs and managing the squad's minutes. I think he's done that extremely well, and I don't feel like he gets enough credit for that. I feel like a lot of people jump on Ange Postecoglou's back when things do go wrong, but they don't give him enough credit when he actually does things that that are good and make an impact. Ange has confirmed that Kulusevski should or could be involved next week in the Frankfurt second leg, but unlikely to start the game. We do receive some fantastic messages and comments on this channel. DJ Obsession says here, my next door neighbour is a gooner. I haven't been in my back garden all season. I wouldn't either. Craig, let's come to you. let's talk about the game itself. We're almost an hour in. So after 6 minutes, it was a terrible start for Spurs, going 1-0 down at home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. As you mentioned earlier, Maddison was caught out. He was dispossessed. And then it was a it's a fantastic shot into the bottom right-hand corner. What do you make of it?
Yeah. As I say, Maddison dispossessed. You could still see though, as you wind this on to the next picture, you can see 3 players and 6 Tottenham defenders still round. And so, although it was a cracking goal by I can't pronounce it. Ekitike, I think his name is.
Well done, bruv. That was better than me.
No,
thank you. I personally think we got enough defenders there to deal with that. One player there, probably the furthest forward, he's moving forward in, he would have run offside. You got Mickey van der Ven there backing him up anyway. And how the hell has he got that shot off? He just wasn't closed down quick enough, in my opinion. You could talk about the breakaway. That is how they play. They play on the counter-attack. And just for me, there's enough players there that should be dealing with that and shutting it down quicker.
Who could have been dealing with this, Craig? Because this second picture that we play on here, you mentioned like Vicario in that position. You're thinking, the defence have got this covered. They're not going to let him get the shot in. He's right outside the goalkeeper's area. He doesn't look a real threat. And then when you look at this next picture, there's 4 players almost going in for the tackle. Who needed to do better here?
Can you wind it back to the first image, Chris? Right, so you can see there, and I think that is... Who is that? That's Porro, isn't it? And right, so Porro's got to get across to him quicker. And then as you go on, the defence is not in. Udogi's running back, but he's keeping track with his marker there. Now that is Romero with his arms behind his back. I know why defenders do it, but I don't see how you can defend like that. But I get why they do it because he's actually in the box at that point. But for me, I want to see Romero going towards him and shutting him down a bit quicker. Bergval's just coming back into it, trying to get a tackle in. Bentancur's kind of probably too far away. Mickey van der Ven's covering the other striker the furthest forward. Destiny Udogi can see the number 27 there as well. So I think he's set reasonably well. There should be enough there to deal with it. But as you go on to the third image, you can see, like you say, there's Romero's just looks like he's just standing there. I'm sure he wasn't, but he looks like he's just standing there. Bergval's tried to get back in. And Ben, I think that's Porro, isn't it, has come across. So it just wasn't good defending all round. We should have not let the guy get that shot away. He wasn't shut down quick enough, in my opinion. But then again, Maddison gave the ball away in centre midfield. But
yeah,
to be fair to Maddison, you think we should have had enough to deal with it, as that picture proves.
Craig, talking about Pedro Porro from a defensive point of view, what do you make of him actually as a defender? Because we speak so highly of him going forward. He's shooting, and of course he's finished this evening, was exceptional, but he's defending. Does he worry you at times?
He does, and that's why I wouldn't mind seeing him playing further up the pitch because, like you say, he's brilliant going forward. He can put a good cross in. Although some of our corners tonight were absolutely diabolical, we didn't beat the first man. But I think I'd like to see him play a bit further up the pitch, to be honest with you. Originally, he was like a wing back, so you get that opportunity. But he's not the best defensively. We know that. We know he's not the best right back in the world. So, but Ange likes him because he's good at going forward and getting great crosses over. But yeah, he's not the best defensively, and I don't think he ever will be. I like Pedro Porro, I do, but I think you're asking him to perhaps do a job that he can't do, and he's not the best at, to be honest. I think Jed Spence is probably a better defender, but Porro puts a better crossing than Jed. But I love Jed as a player, so it's really difficult trying to saying one's better than the other at a certain thing. But Jed is definitely a better defender than Porro, and it's shown time and time again he can get back in and eat up the ground and get back where he needs to be.
Ricky, let's come to you. Ange said in the press conference there that Spurs reacted well after going 1-0 down. It was a disappointing goal to concede, particularly after 6 minutes of such a crucial match, because the crowd were really up for it this evening. And I thought the crowd at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium were excellent, but it did quieten the crowd for a couple of minutes, I must say. Probably stunned that we conceded just after 6 minutes. But after 11 minutes, Heung-min Son put a cross in. It was too close to the goalkeeper. A minute later, Dominic Solanke didn't quite connect on his header towards goal. And then on 18 minutes, Dominic Solanke crossed to Brennan Johnson, who headed over the bar from close range. What did you make of those chances? And as Blake and Craig have already said about Brennan Johnson, I suppose he should have done better with that opportunity, although he scored so many goals this season. And also what Craig mentioned earlier about Dominic Solanke. Does that bother you as a Spurs fan that he hasn't scored the goals that perhaps some people expected him to score? Because I must admit, it doesn't bother me how many goals a striker scores, as long as we are scoring goals. And most importantly, as long as that player is putting a shift in. And I don't think anyone can ever say that Dominic Solanke is not putting a shift in.
I think you gents are absolutely right. He's one of the, I think Craig said it earlier, he's one of the most hardworking centre forwards out there. I think it's a really tough task for him to play in this system sometimes. I think we haven't helped him either. There's times where we haven't got the ball into him and we haven't used him that way. But he almost is a bit like Firmino at Liverpool, who had a thankless task there. And I didn't understand why Liverpool fans loved him. Always used to score against us. But, in majority of the time, he wasn't like the top goal scorer. But he done a kind of the similar job, which was hold up, bring people in and create chances. And if you look at our goal today, if it wasn't for his unselfish running and ability to... almost his want to make something happen that got him out and picked up the ball, that fed it in and found Madders, who then jinked. And with his creative step in, and I don't know how to describe it, but he just manages to find himself a yard. And when he's on top form, he tends to do that a lot and make an opposition defender look silly. And he's done that, create the space and then found Porro. But you look at what Dominic done today, he was... I think he was so good. In the second half, he came out aggressive. He came out angry. He was like... He started the press from the front, and he started niggling the Eintracht Frankfurt defenders the same way they were niggling us. Every time that we built up any momentum, they would pull us, or they would jump on the back of us, or it was a little niggly foul to stop us playing. And I felt it like especially in the second half. But Dominic came on and he was like, right, I'm going to do that. And he started bullying people and he started bashing into people and just barging them and just being a presence and being a nuisance. And that's what he can bring. He's still coming back from injury himself. He looked a lot fitter today, I've got to say, for the majority of the 90 minutes. But we've got to play. We've got to play to his strengths sometimes. We've got to look to him when he does the run off the back of the defender and stuff like that, and get balls into him, give him more opportunities to score, because he can do it. Left foot, right foot header, he can do it, but we need to find him a bit more. But like you, Chris, as long as we're scoring and as long as we're winning, that is what is most important. It is a team game, and Solanke is a team player. You can see it. You can see it from the time that he's turned up. You know what? Even more ways that you can see it was when he wasn't there at all. When he was off injured, what did we look like? What happened then? So I wanted to score more goals too. I really do. And I think he deserves it. And I think it will come, but we've got to find him and play to his strengths a little bit more. On Johnson missing that header, I don't know whether he missed the header or whether that defender got there. I saw it in slow motion and I was still confused. It was almost like a David Blaine mind trick. I don't know.
Ricky, I'm so glad you've said this, because from where I was sitting, it looked like the header came from the defender, right? And I actually said to the people next to me, that's going to be a corner. And then the referee gave the goal kick, and they were like, no, Brennan Johnson headed it over the bar. So can you guys shed any more light on that or not?
Well, I was confused too, the same way, right? But in slow motion, to me, it was the defender that got there first. Diat, I think it was. But then I was like, so why didn't we get the corner? And then my brother who was here, he was like, well, they've blown for offside. They were saying that Johnson was offside. And I was like, what? What are you talking? So, bro, confused.com over here. Craig, Blake, you got any clarity on that?
Well, Solanke was offside initially anyway. Solanke was offside and then Johnson was offside, so it wouldn't have counted either way.
I'm surprised you haven't blamed Timo Werner for something.
And Timo Werner was, oh, bless him. Leave him alone.
Oh.
Yeah, we wish him all of the very best for the future. I don't think he's going to get a single minute now, is he?
No.
Wouldn't have thought so.
No, he won't. But that's the way it was supposed to be at the beginning of the season. He wasn't supposed to. He was supposed to be a just in case man. But oh my gosh, it was like that. That's and it is what it is. But yeah, look, we move forward, and we're moving forward.
Blake, let's come to you. Let's talk about Tottenham's equaliser, because what an equaliser it was. Heung-min Son to Dominic Solanke to James Maddison. Great work from Maddison, who crossed for Pedro Porro. And what an absolutely delightful finish.
Yeah, really good. Obviously, we were talking about Big Dom's work rate there in the lead up, and he definitely created the space there for Porro to move into. Great feed from Matters, and obviously it just comes in and flicks it into the bottom of the goal there. Incredible effort, and it obviously brought us back into the game. It was his moment of brilliance, and you've got to take those moments of brilliance. So, absolutely delighted with the goal. If only we could have taken our chances later in the game, I think that would have been super helpful. But look at that pass just straight into there, and for him to flick that on and quick thinking in the moment, absolutely brilliant and ecstatic for his goal. So that's the big positive to take out of tonight. Porro took his chance in front of goal, and we've dearly missed that creativity and that space to move into. So can't complain at all. Really, really good build up.
For those listening on audio, including the goalkeeper, there's actually 9 Frankfurt players in their penalty area here, which makes it even better that James Maddison picked out Pedro Porro, because there are a lot of red shirts. What have you made of James Maddison, Blake, this season? Because, of course, he's now not in the England squad. I suppose that Thomas Tuchel has him on the list of potential players to come back into the squad at some point. But, does someone like James Maddison need to up his game? Does he need to give more? Because I feel like he's been a very frustrating player in certain games. He's absolutely wonderful. But then in some games, it's like, where was he today?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Needs to find that consistency.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think today was the first step to that. He looked the best he'd been for a number of games, to be honest. Creativity was there. Turning players inside out is one of his best traits, is just turning on a dime and then, flipping the defender or the midfielder inside out, and we break play open. He's really good at finding the spaces and obviously being creative. And I think he's got to play into his strengths. But I was listening to Leicester fans talk about when he was there, and it was very much the same. It was either injured, missing, or indifferent. There was no in between, and it was a very inconsistent sort of player for them. So I think if he can find that consistency, he's going to be a really dangerous player, and I think he's going to be so important for us moving forward, of course. It's just finding that consistency. And as I said earlier, it's about all the players, not only James, but all the 11 playing 90 minutes as much as they possibly can and not dropping in and out of the game. It happens too often with James, I feel. I think that's probably his biggest downfall, is that he does fall out of the game, and often, that results in him being substituted for a change, I feel as well. So, look, if he can tie those little things up, I think he's world class, and he can get back in that England squad. There's no doubt about it. We're crying out for somebody that can be more creative in that English squad too. So, yeah, it's not all doom and gloom for him. I think that there's lots of opportunity. It's again just finding that consistency.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk about Pedro Porro's finish, because it was a fantastic finish, wasn't it, from him?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. What do they call that when you flick it? It's not a Rabona, is it? It's I don't even know what you call that, but it was a very clever finish. Yeah, 100%. He did chuff for that as well. wheeled away with the ball under his belly. I guess his wife or partner's expecting a baby. That's what they normally do, isn't it? So yeah. But as you say, it was a great pick out for Maddison as well. And I was actually looking, Johnson, if you see it, look in the picture, Johnson is absolutely in acres and acres of space with his arms in the air at the back post.
Yeah.
So if Porro had missed that, it probably would have come to Johnson as well. And at the moment, Maddison crossed it, there was a big gap between the keeper and the defenders that he could have just slipped it across. So if Porro had missed it, I think Johnson, well, he didn't have his best night in front of goal, did he? So it might have gone over the bar, of course. But yeah, it was just a really good bit of skill by Porro. And he doesn't actually get in those positions that often. So it was good to see Porro get in that position. But as I say, it was his best moment of the game. But defensively, I'm still not convinced by Pedro Porro.
Craig, of course, we went in at half-time 1-1. How are you feeling at that point?
Just feeling like I wanted them to do more, basically. Because they, apart from the goal, they didn't really cause us that many problems. Like I say, Vicario probably didn't even need to wash his kit, to be honest. He hardly put a shift in. So when your goalkeeper's quiet, that means you're doing something right. So that is what probably gives me a little bit of hope for next week. Yes, they're at home, but if they do hit teams on the counter attack, and we've got Mickey as a flick, yeah, it's good a word as any. Thank you, Skunkworth. It's a good if they're going to hit us on the counter. Mickey van der Ven showed his pace a few times tonight. Just got back in, made a tackle, pushed players off the ball. So I think he's going to be key next week, and we need to wrap him up in cotton wool to then. I don't care if Mickey van der Ven don't play Sunday, to be honest. I want to rest him. We're going to need him next week because that's how they play. And if he's there, I think we got a chance, half a chance defensively anyway.
Craig, what about that chance we nearly conceded on the fraction of half time, right before the end of the first half? My heart was in my stomach at that point, because if they would have scored at that point, mate.
Yeah.
There was a few players there, wasn't there? That it was like 4-on-2. And again, how many times have we seen it this season? But you think, okay, you kind of get used to it, funny enough. It's like, oh, here we go again. 4 against 2.
Can I ask you about that, Ricky? Because that was a glorious chance for them. And had they have played the right pass in the area at that time, it could have been vital for them and vital for us. What did you make of Frankfurt today? Were you impressed by them? Are they the team that you expected us to face today?
I think they're a well-drilled outfit. I think they've got some pace and experience in places, and they've got a system in which they're all comfortable playing. They've got an experienced guy in Goetze there. You know, their striker. I'm not going to try and pronounce the guy's name. If he signs for Tottenham, I'll know it inside backwards in French.
Ekitike.
Ekitike. All right, cool. Ekitike, you got to dance with it. All right,
I hope that you guys aren't talking about him a lot next week.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, mate. Like I was just saying there, it was a heart in my stomach moment right at the end of that first half, because it would have been a proper body blow going into the start of the second half, after getting back in the game, after finding our way back in the game, finding some possession, finding some kind of finding some passes and finding some momentum, and scoring and going in 1-1. That would have been devastating if we would have conceded at that point.
Ricky, let's stay with you. After 50 minutes, a good move from Frankfurt. Couldn't quite get their shot in. It was eventually cleared by the Tottenham Hotspur defence. 3 minutes later, Pedro Porro lost the ball in the centre of the park. It seemed so careless. And then Frankfurt were on the counter-attack. I don't want to diss Pedro Porro, far from it, because, what a wonderful today. But going back to, what I asked Craig about Pedro Porro defensively, because at the end of the day, defensively, that is his job. What do you make of Pedro Porro? How can he improve this defensive side of his game? Because it's funny, it's probably the area of his game that we probably worry about the most.
We knew that when he came in, when we signed him, we knew that he was an attacking right back and less so on the defensive side. I think in his first season, he actually improved over the season on his defensive side. And I think, he's got a long way to go on that defensive side, but at the same time, he's being asked to play so far up the pitch as well that when we do have a counter, he's got so far to run back. I think that he could improve his positioning, awareness sense, but also as a team, for us when we lose the ball high up the pitch, not to panic as well, and not to all hands to the pump sort of attitude, because that's what happens. Everyone starts scattering, everyone's panicking, nobody knows where each other's are, everyone's breaking their necks as they're running back, and that's how it's easy for the opposition that are running against you to find a clear pass and for them to find a clear opportunity. So that's a suggestion of not just Porro but the whole back line. But he's always going to be more offensive than defensive. That's always going to be his strength. Yes, he can improve his positional awareness and his reading of the game. Like Spence loves a one-on-one duel. He loves a one-on-one duel, and it doesn't matter what type of winger he's up against, whether that's Salah or Doku, or it doesn't. For him, it's a great challenge, and he's up for it. And he's got pace, he's got strength, Spence, but he's also got a reading of the game. Like it's instinctive almost, and that's where Porro could improve.
Blake, let's come to you. Let's talk about the 55th minute strike from Lucas Bergvall that hit the bar. I tell you what, I don't think the guy could have hit it any better. What a strike from him! What a player he has been. I mentioned earlier about yes, it has been a very poor season in the Premier League, but what a shining light that the Sweden international has been for Spurs this season.
Yeah, it really feels like he's setting the tone. And for a 19-year-old kid to come in and set the tone like that, it's just incredible. He's been a revelation. And we were talking previously in a previous show about like all these young kids getting heaps of game time, your Grads, your Bergvalls, your Mikey Moores, etc. And I think it's actually put him in really good stead to what he's become as a player now. And to see him hit the ball that sweetly on the strike and it not to go in, felt devastated for him. I'm sure that the stadium would have erupted if that went in because it was an absolute peach of a hit. But he was just everywhere tonight. He was fantastic, and I think that's been a real testament to his character all the way throughout the season. And to have a mentality like him at 19, sure, he's made mistakes, and there's been a couple of moments here and there in games, but that's all been part of the learning experience for him. And that I truly believe has put him in good stead for tonight's performance yet again. So we couldn't ask for more out of a kid that turned down Barcelona and chose to be part of Tottenham. So he's an incredibly bright future at the club, and that strike was just outstanding. Like I just wish it went in because it would have like really swung the momentum hard in the other way. And I think we could have scored another goal after that and put it to 2 or 3-1. And obviously that's not how football works. And if we're going down Ange's road, the football gods may not have been with us tonight, but what a strike, and I think he's just going to be such an important player for us moving forward.
He's been impressive all round, though, Blake, hasn't he, Lucas Bergvall? And I suppose he's now one of the first names on the team sheet, which is quite incredible, really, because at the start of the season, from what I understand, the club even thought about possible loans for Lucas Bergvall. But the amount of injuries that we've had has given players, it has turned into a positive for someone like him. And like Ricky said earlier, when some of these players have had opportunities, it is about grabbing them, and he's certainly done it.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think, like, he just has no fear when he crashes in too. So when we don't have the ball, he's totally okay with a big challenge. And I thought that would be a bit intimidating for a 19-year-old, but he's clearly up to it. And we've found a gem for sure. Like the defensive side of his game is just so important as well as the attacking side. And it's a pleasure to watch him week in, week out for sure. He's been one of the shining lights this year in what has been challenging times in our Premier League season. But if he can continue being a hero in Europe and putting in shifts like that, he's got an incredibly bright future. Oh, we lost. Oh, Chris, you there yet? Oh, you guys are on mute too. Yeah.
Rick, you're on mute, mate.
Who's here? Is everybody here?
Yeah. Well,
Chris?
I think Chris has lost connection. So,
but what about Bergvall's change of direction and speed? as well. Oh my gosh, he was phenomenal, man.
The way it thundered against the bar as well, I actually thought it was going to fly over, but it sort of seemed to dip, didn't it, as well?
Yeah.
And we hit the bar shortly after that as well, didn't we? I just think that whole period, I was certainly thinking, come on, we surely got to score now. Do you know what I mean, Rick? I just thought that was the moment. That's the moment we should be.
It was that period of time.
You know what I mean?
We had the momentum, and we had the drive. And you know what? I was sitting at home after that shot, and I was just kind of praying that they just gave it back to him. I was like, give it back to Bergvall. It was almost again like, old school FIFA, when the player's on fire, just give him it, let him have it.
Yeah.
And because he had all the confidence in the world, let him go, let him take shots from outside the box, whatever. But for those 2-3 minutes, let him have it. But we ended up playing around him and then trying to bring him in like through a cross. But, for those 2-3 minutes that we just peppered the goal, like, we deserved it. Tell me we didn't deserve it. It wasn't just a break goal. It wasn't just, a chance goal. It wasn't a set piece goal. We were fighting for it, and we were playing for it, and we wanted it. And that's what I needed to see as well tonight. I needed to see them want it. I needed to see them need it. Not just us will it, us fans willing it. Us supporters sitting there going, please want it as much as we do. I saw it in them. And that's what gives me encouragement as well. Like they were, look, Blake, like you were saying about Bentancur. Bentancur was everywhere. He was getting onto everything.
Oh, he had an outstanding game. I think I had it noted here that he had like the most duels won, most tackles played, most possessions gained, like all these things. And he had an outstanding game. I think you could see the players really wanted it tonight. And I think that's the most pleasing thing. And like we can say that, the Premier League season's gone, but they wanted to get a result there tonight. And I thought that for 20 to 30 minutes in that second half, like straight off the bat, they had their chance early on. But half an hour of that second half, we were just all guns blazing and trying to create as many opportunities as we can. It didn't quite go our way, but you can see that the endeavour's there. And, I think I've mentioned on this show before, I coach Australian rules footy here in Australia. And when you're coaching, all you can ask for is a perfect effort. And you can always ask for the best effort that they can possibly give you. And I thought that it was there tonight. Just that final product and that finish and the capitalisation on chances just wasn't quite there, but everything else, we're in a good position moving into the weekend and also into next Thursday.
Rick, what did you make of? I'm not sure actually what minute that was in, but what did you make of when on the 70? Must have been the 79th minute, Ange took off. They made the triple substitution, didn't he? Udogie, Maddison, and Son came off for Tell, Sarr, and Spence.
Yeah.
What did you make of that? Were you disappointed that any of them went off, or obviously Udogie was a bit injured, wasn't he? Has been confirmed he had cramp, but yeah.
But I felt a bit like Blake said earlier. I felt that the Spence Udogie sub could have come a little bit earlier. I would have taken it on 70. I would have taken it on 65, 70. Udogie done so well up until those points that you could see that there was just a little bit of a dip. So bringing on Sarr, I think for Maddison was a bit harsh because I felt that he was having an influence on the game and he was the one that was looking to kind of, he wanted to be the star. I mean, look at that shot that Maddison had before he went off. The jink in and, everybody thought he was going to cross it and then he shot at goal. And it was just an unfortunate, it was a bit of a worldy save for the keeper tonight. But it was a great effort. It was clever. And, again, we deserved our goal tonight. We deserved the winner tonight. So, okay, we didn't get it. And then bringing in Sarr as well is just an engine box. I think Sonny had moments. I think that he was driving. He was trying his hardest again. I think that he was doing his Sonny leadership role in those points. I think he had a great shot. I think there was moments from him. It wasn't vintage Sonny, but you could see there was a lot good about it. And I think energy coming off of the bench in someone like Tell, again, was a kind of smart substitution at that stage. 10 minutes to go. You've had your most influential players on for the 80 minutes. We've still got a second leg to come. try and grab something, smash and grab right at the end of this with some of our pacey players where their defense is tired and lacking. Let's break on them. Let's try and chuck everything forward, and let's try and take an advantage. So I think they were positive. They were positive subs. We just chat about the subs there, Chris. Welcome back, my friend.
Yeah, I think the internet gods are as being as good as the football gods this evening. So apologies. Ricky, let's stay with you. On 56 minutes, you're talking about Heung-min Son there. Of course, just inside the box, he had a shot at the goalkeeper, which was saved. It was a great spell for Spurs, and a spell that got the crowd really noisy and roaring, especially in their south stand. Pedro Porro with a corner. Bentancur headed it against the top of the crossbar, and then James Maddison had a shot saved as well. And interestingly, I'll talk about the crowd. The attendance this evening, 57,849, meaning there were 5,000 spare seats, empty seats at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for a quarter-final in the Europa League. Does that surprise you?
I mean, yes, but there is a cost of living crisis going on. People are trying to pay their electric and their rent and trying to put food on the table when a burger costs £10 now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's mental out there. So let alone the prices within the stadium. So maybe that has something to do with it. There's Easter coming up as well. Maybe it was something to do like that financial wise. But yes, of course, it's always surprising that in a quarterfinal that we have not sold every single ticket going and getting behind the boys. I think that's probably a mix of negativity that is surrounding the club that I was talking about earlier. And for right or wrong, whatever it is, there is a cloud around us. And maybe there's a bit of that. Maybe people have lost belief. Maybe people have lost heart. Maybe people have kind of just a bit fed up right now. And Tottenham will do that to you. If you've been, a Tottenham supporter for longer than 5 minutes, guaranteed that they're going to do that to you. Guaranteed you're going to need breaks in this Tottenham, following Tottenham. You're going to need times when you don't watch a game or you switch it off and you just look at the result. You're going to need those moments. And maybe it was a bit of that. But I think what is, again, encouraging to see is that last Thursday I was on with Craig after Chelsea. And again, I was chatting to Craig on the pod and saying, with most of our players back, there really wasn't no version of Ange Ball that I saw. I felt that the Ange Ball side of what made me believe in him and what made me back him and what made me have a bit of faith in him and in him, trying to get that going. Where had it gone? Since January, since the turn of December, January, I think that he's tried to adapt and he's tried to do different things and he's tried to, almost like buckle under the pressure of changing a system or a way and tweaking a system in a way. And it's gone all over the place. And when I saw it against Chelsea, there was no overlapping fullback. There was no high press pace. There was no quick 1-2 passing. And again, I think that was down to belief. Like, they didn't believe it right then at that moment. But look what's happened a week later, when it really matters, when it really, really matters in this competition, because this is it. This is it. There's a lot on this competition. There's been an improvement. There's been a win midweek. And I said to Craig, after Chelsea, I said, we'll probably win, but it'll be a hollow victory. And that's exactly how it felt, But we got a win. We got a few flashes of the Ange Ball against Southampton. Then they calmed down in their second half. But today, they after the goal conceded, they picked themselves up and they carried on fighting and they went out there to go and get an equaliser and then to go and get a winner in the second half. They weren't having it. It looked like they'd had enough of losing, and it looked like they had enough of this joke that we've become this season all over again. And it looked like they was up for the fight a bit and they wanted that second goal. They wanted that winner. So seeing that, having that part of energy, momentum going now, again, we need to keep it going. We need to keep that momentum moving forward to next week and stand up, boys. That's what they need to do. Stand up. It's your moment. Those that have won World Cups before and won wherever they've been before, this is your time. If Andrew's got a big speech in him, that is your moment, my friend, because that's when we need to go all guns blazing for the 90 plus extra time or whatever else. We've got to have it up here, and we've got to have it in the heart, in the head and in the heart before we have it in the legs, because that's what messes us up majority of the time over the years. It's been in the head and it's been in the heart where we've messed ourselves up how many times. And that's where it needs to be. That's where we need to be super strong and super united and super together. I don't want to say united, super together. Do you know what I mean? Have each other's backs. Be Spartans out there and go out there like the 300 did and go and, make history, and let's keep it rolling forward to that final.
Talking about the podcast hosting, Ricky, I think I've agreed with Craig that he's going to cover all of the defeats from now until the end of the season, and I'm just going to do the wins and the draws.
I like it, bruv. You need a break too, didn't you?
I'll be here. I'll be here for every podcast this season. That means this one.
Hopefully, you'll see a lot more of me and not Craig.
well, Craig's beard was super black last week. It's only taken him a week for it to go straight colour. Do you know what I mean?
How to go grey within 7 days.
Support Tottenham.
Support Spurs.
Look, I've got it going as well, boys. You know what I mean? Look,
really?
Oh dear.
Blake, let's come to you. On 68 minutes, a great team move from Spurs in the final third, especially. Udogie waited, though. Pedro Porro was in a great position, and Udogie went low, and then it was eventually blocked and then cleared. Ange Postecoglou there in the press conference said that Destiny Udogie was incredible. What did you make of Destiny Udogie this evening?
Missed it. I think we really missed that forward-thinking, attacking mindset of a left back. And when Spencer's been there, he's been given us both ways. I think he's better on the right, to be honest, and probably covers the ground better than Porro, and especially defensively. But Udogie, we missed him big time. We really, really missed him when he was out for a while there. Just really creative player, super explosive pace. And there's a reason. I know we shouldn't probably mention this too much, but there's a reason that the big clubs are looking at him. It's because he is that really, really exciting player, and he's a young kid with plenty of potential. So I think he's been really good, and he had an excellent game tonight again. Probably one of our better performers. I would say Bergevall, I think that's how you say it in the Swedish pronunciation. But he had a brilliant game, to be honest, and I'm really liking his game this season when he's been in. It's just about keeping him healthy now all the way throughout till the end of the season, and managing his minutes. Perhaps he's a rotation for the Wolves game, and we keep him fresh because he's got to be in that starting 11, I think, for the next leg.
Craig, let's come to you. 72 minutes, Pedro Porro corner, Bentancur header at goal, comfortable for the goalkeeper. You mentioned set pieces earlier. I felt like in the last couple of games, the set pieces have been fairly decent. Romero had a couple of chances from a couple of corners the other day against Southampton. Today, we had chances from corners. Again, I suppose we better talk about Pedro Porro in that final third, taking corners. I know we've spoken about, our discontent of his defensive side of the game, but, whipping a corner in, whipping a cross in, creating chances, scoring goals. That's what he does.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think all our set pieces were very good tonight. There was certainly some that were good.
I didn't say all.
No, didn't beat the first man. But to be fair, it wasn't always Pedro Porro taking them. Madison did one. Son's corners were...
God, that is a grumpy answer.
Well, it is fact that all our set pieces, they were okay today, but Bentancur I thought was towering for some of the headers. I thought he really commanded that box from an attacking perspective tonight. I mean, he should have scored a couple. You see how frustrated he was with one of his headers, but some of our deliveries, it just frustrates the hell out of me when you can't beat the first man. It's like having Ericsson back on the corners, and it's really, really poor. It really winds me up. I nearly swore it really winds me up when they can't beat the first man. There was twice in a row. Corner come over. I think it was Porro actually in the second half. Corner come over. Didn't hit the first man, comes back to him, does it again. Exactly the same thing. Get the ball in the box. You don't always have to whip it over. Just get it in the box in the right areas. There's a mob down the road who won't even bother mentioning their name. We all know how good their corners have been. They don't try and whip it over. And there's other teams in the Premier League. Just get the delivery where the ball's supposed to be and let the attackers do their job. It hasn't always got to be a whipped corner, because it rarely comes off. Sorry for being grumpy, by the way.
That's all right. I know it's late. I On 70, I was only joking about you hosting the all of the defeats, Craig. Don't worry.
No, it's technically correct. Let's get it right.
Craig, on 79 minutes, Ange made a treble sub. Son, Maddison, Udogie all going off. Tell, Sart and Spence coming on. I know we spoke a little bit about this earlier, about bringing the energy at that time of the game, which is really important, especially for a European tie. And I feel like it is definitely going to be very important for next week's game because, you know, Ange rightly said it could go to extra time. It could even go to penalties. I know Brennan Johnson spoke about the penalties in his pre-match press conference. How important is it to have such a strong bench like we had this evening?
Oh, it's just shown you're bringing on strength, like you say. You're not scrapping around for defenders having 3 or 4 goalkeepers on the bench. You're actually bringing on decent replacements where they're needed and players that can fit into that position rather than shoehorning somebody in. It's actually players that can play there. Like just even seeing Richarlison coming on as a centre forward, it was great to see him coming back. Even though you know quite clearly I've said before, I still don't think Richarlison's the answer. It's good actually we've got another centre forward coming on rather than somebody who's shoehorned in there. I think I would have liked to have seen the subs a little bit earlier tonight, but I can see why Ange didn't do that because we were dominant and managers don't like to change it when teams are really, really pushing. And I think he was hoping we'd score, but obviously then it got to a point where he had to give those players a rest. But bringing those players on, 3 quality players, fresh players, and players that are actually playing in their right positions, it can only be a good thing. Like I say, if we can just get Kulusevski back. I don't know how far Danzo's away. I don't know the extent of his injury. I haven't really heard much about it. But, you know, it's only then, from memory, only Dragushin really, and that's long term. So, you know, but Kulusevski for me is the main one. Great to get Danzo back, by the way, for cover, but certainly Kulusevski, if we can get him back, that's big.
Craig, I want to stay with you on this one. On 83 minutes, Jed Spence to Brennan Johnson, who hit it over the bar. What did you make of that chance? And what also have you made of the criticism that Brennan Johnson has received this season, particularly after how many goals he has scored? And when you look back at the weekend, the Southampton win, a couple of great finishes from him.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, firstly, let me say what a great bit of play by Spence again. Great set-up play. Shame he didn't get another assist. Johnson is a funny one for me. You can see there's a player in there. His goals have been incredibly important, and for me, either plays well, scores his goals, or he's not really there. He doesn't do much, and I just want to see him do a bit more. Some games he doesn't seem to not try. That would be harsh, but he seemed to be really trying to work hard tonight, closing down, and that's what I want to see him do. But what I also want to see him do is go at his defenders because he's exceptionally fast. It's weird. I can't really describe how I feel about Brennan Johnson. I'm never gutted to see him in the starting lineup. Do you know what I mean? I never really think, oh, bloody hell, he's starting again. But I never feel like you get excited when he comes on, you know, like, I don't know, a game changer sort of thing. It's a weird one because I really like Brennan Johnson. I think his attitude's first class. I think he tries to work hard in some games. I think he does need to up his work rate in certain games. There's been games this season I don't think he's performed pretty well in. But I think it perhaps shows to a degree when Johnson doesn't have a good game because everybody seems to be on his case and think he doesn't do much. So he obviously does have an impact, is what I'm saying. Generally, do you know?
I asked this at the weekend, Craig, to the panel. What does Brennan Johnson need to do more of, in your opinion? Because when he spoke in the pre-match press conference ahead of this game, you know, he spoke about, you know, the coaches doing extra work with him. He spoke about him putting extra shifts in. He believes that his game has really come on. The stats speak for themselves, the amount of goals that he scored. What does he need to do more of for you? Because, you know, he does receive a lot of criticism, and it was rightly pointed out by a number of Spurs fans, especially on X, you know, naturally, that, you know, when he spoke about perhaps winning this competition, he didn't mention the fans.
What does he need to do? His goal record is very good. I have to say that his goal record is very good. I just want to see him go at players more. He's a winger. I want to see him ping the ball past him and just run, because he's got his pace. He can just run and run and run. But he's crossing as well. He puts crosses across low. I want to see him. I just want to see him a bit more vary up the crosses as well. He is a young player and he's got a lot to learn. But for a winger, I want to see him taking on players and crossing the ball more. That's what I'd like to see him do more, because he's got the work rate, and you could clearly see he's been working on his work rate. So
yeah.
And his goal record speaks for itself. He's always getting in the right positions. That's the key thing. He's always in that back post, and he makes that run across. Incredibly difficult to mark, almost impossible, actually. He's just got to keep trying. They've all just got to keep trying.
Like I said about Ange Postecoglou receiving a lot of criticism and him not getting the credit that he deserves sometimes, I feel like Brennan Johnson getting into those areas don't receive the credit he deserves, because I think that all of us fans just think that is a natural thing and that's exactly where he should be all the time. But it's a skill and it's an art, and he's done it a number of times this season where he's been on the score sheet. Ricky, the last thing that I want to cover for the game before we talk very quickly about the Wolves game on Sunday. Ange Postecoglou said in the post-match presser there about, the football gods weren't quite with us today. Mickey van der Ven with his chance, and then right at the end, 2 minutes from time, Dominic Solanke going off, Richarlison coming on. Ange Postecoglou was also asked about Richarlison. Will he get more game time? Is it the sort of thing where you'd like to see Richarlison perhaps start, perhaps instead of Dominic Solanke on Sunday away at Wolves?
If he's fit enough to start, then why not? Or if not, you start with Solanke because he's been so pivotal. And then like 55, 65 minutes at the most, you take him off for Richarlison. The thing is that when every time Richarlison has come back, as soon as he's kicked the ball, 5 minutes later, he's been injured. Yeah. Basically. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds harsh, but basically that's what's happened. And nobody's challenged him. It's just, it might be a muscle, it might be a this, it might be a that. So, we need to keep him as fit as possible, but we do need to get him up to match sharpness as well. So it is that dilemma. So I don't think it's wise to start. I would, but I don't think it's wise to start him. I think it's one of those where you start Solanke and then you bring on Richarlison. Second half, the whole of the second half, or if not, no later than 65 minutes.
Right, Ricky, we're going to talk a little bit about the Wolves game and then get score predictions from all of you. Talk a little bit about squad selection, what Ange Postecoglou should do, what you'd like to see him do. I'm going to give you a couple of facts before we get your opinions on Sunday's game. Now, we take on Wolves at Molineux on Sunday, 2 p.m. kickoff. They have won their last 3 Premier League games against Southampton, West Ham and Ipswich, drawing against Everton before that, so they are unbeaten in their last 4 Premier League games. Wolves are unbeaten in their last 4 league games against Spurs, winning 3 and drawing 1. Last having a longer run between May 1968 and Feb 1970. That's 5 games. Spurs have lost their last 2 away league games against Wolves, as many in their previous 12, winning 8 and drawing 2. They last lost 3 consecutive league visits to Molineux between 1964 and 1968. And the last stat I'll give you is Wolves have won each of their last 3 Premier League games, with no side currently enjoying a longer ongoing winning run in the competition. Wolves last won 4 consecutive matches in the top flight in January 1972, before all of us were born apart from Craig. So that is a very long time. Ricky, what are you thinking?
I think, like I said earlier, it's about those that come in and audition for the cup tie next week, Thursday. I don't think we can lose this game. I think at the very least, we need to come out with a draw. But it's more about, again, momentum and keeping that momentum going. It's more about it's the belief within the system and playing like you believe it. There's one thing thinking that you can do something. There's another thing just doing it, because you know how to do it. And I think we've lost a bit of that going in. So whoever comes in, don't look at it like, oh, you're the second team, like it used to be, Chris. We used to have that, didn't we? I remember Harry Winks coming out because he played a Europa game and he was like, oh, but the second team and the B team, I didn't feel like whatever it was. But it's not that right now. you're coming in. This is a team game. This is your moment. Yes, there are, the big boys are being rested for the game, but for the cup game coming up next week. But this is your moment to shout and show everybody why you should be on the team sheet, stroke in the first 11 next week. So go out there and do that. I think it's always a tough ground and a tough game. They've got some great players, but it's our time. It's our time. I'm sure they're fed up with losing as well. So whoever comes in, go show them what you're about, and come away with no loss. At the very minimum, a draw, and let's keep this moving, and let's keep this moving. Let's keep this momentum going, and go into next week with some positivity and with some lightness taken off of our shoulders. Do you know what I mean?
Ricky, before you give me your score prediction, can you just tell me whether you think that Ange Postecoglou should rest the likes of, the key players who perhaps, we will agree on, Romero, Van der Ven, Dominic Solanke. What other key players would you think that, or you'd hope that Ange would perhaps rest ahead of next Thursday's game, because that is so huge for us?
I mean, you do as much as you can without shaking the side, but we've seen with a shaken side, players step up. So Archie Gray has stepped up at centre-back. So if we're going Gray and Davies, I'm not afraid of that. If we're going, Spence on either side of the fullbacks and giving somebody a rest, I'm not afraid of that. In fact, I prefer Spence playing. I just believe in him. I just got this feeling. I just feel he's always about to do something. So I've got faith in that. If we're changing out the midfield and we're bringing in Sarr and we're switching it up, then I'm okay with that, because Sarr, again, he looks like to get he's got a bit between his teeth again. And he needs some game time as well. So whoever comes in, Odebear needs some game time. Tell needs some game time. Richarlison needs some game time up front. And like Craig said, that regardless of how many goals they have scored, they haven't scored enough. So those front three, if it's a full front three change, which I don't think it will be, but if it is, all of those have an opportunity. Again, like I was saying earlier, to go and stamp your name on that team sheet next week, whether that's left wing, right wing, or up front. Go show us that you can come on and make an impact, or that you're ready for this fight. So that's the challenge for the boys come Sunday. And score prediction, I should say. It's getting late. Sorry. I'm gonna go 2-1 Spurs.
Thank you, Ricky. Blake, what are you thinking about this one? What changes should Ange Postecoglou make? What would you like to see him make? And your score prediction?
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I'd say you'd probably change your centre backs there. I think you need to protect Van der Ven, put him in cotton wool, protect him for this fixture. I would say you probably start Solanke, but then you'd sort of maybe half time or at the 60-minute mark, bring in Rishi. Maybe give Sonny a bit of a chop out too. I think he probably deserves and needs a bit of a spell. I think we've spoken on this show at length and off air with mates and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he's sustainable. It's not sustainable for him to be playing 180 minutes or thereabouts every night. Obviously, he played 80 tonight, but I think just that little bit of an extra spell for him would be good. And I think you'll see the best out of him in that regard. Maybe, I think if you change the keeper out and bought Kinski in, that might be a little bit dangerous, just so that Vicario can keep his momentum moving forward. But that's an option too. There's a few squad rotations you can make. And I'd like to see Mikey Moore start too in this one. I think that was mentioned earlier. But yeah, I really think play some of the kids, have some squad rotation. And, I don't want to put the queue in the rack, so to speak, with Premier League. I don't think any fan wants to see that. But give some players some rotation. If you have Gray and Davies starting at centre-back, I think that's only a good thing for them. We know that we can be confident in them doing the job. So they're probably my changes if I was Ange or if I was the manager. In terms of a score prediction, I'm going to say 2-2 or 2-1 Spurs, I reckon. I think it's either going to be a draw or a win. I don't see a great big score line, but I want to be positive, so I'm actually going to go 2-1, to be honest. I think that's my last prediction.
They have certainly been a different outfit since Pereira has gone in there as Wolves boss, and I think that this is going to be a difficult game. But like I said, I feel like Thursday night is the important one. Craig, what are you thinking about this game?
Very similar to what the guys have already said, actually. I think there's got to be rotation, and I would go so far as to play Kinski just to protect all our key players, even Vicario. I mean, imagine if you pulled a quad or something like that. We need Vicario Thursday. So essentially, very similar to what King Oldall's put here, but I would have Kinski in goal. I'm not sure else could play centre-back. I think you've got to play Romero or Van der Ven, and out the two, I'd play Romero. Absolutely, I agree with this more or less. But as I say, I'd probably just sling Kinski in as well. I agree with what Blake said. I think nobody wants to give up on the Premier League, but look, let's face it, does it really matter if you finish 15th or 16th? We're safe in the Premier League. We've got to put all our eggs in this basket. And I get the momentum thing, but this game Thursday is so huge. So I still think Wolves, you're right, they've been playing well, but it is what it is. And I think it will be a 2-2 draw on Sunday, and I'll take that.
Yeah. Craig, you're such a legend. I tell you, it's nearly 1 a.m. here in the UK, and you and Ricky are still going strong. I know Blake has got to go off to work shortly. So, Blake, thank your boss for allowing you to go in work later, because you've been on this podcast early this morning for you. Craig, where can people find you, and what are you up to at the moment?
I'm going straight to bed because I've got an early tea time with my son tomorrow. So yeah, he's going to beat me. I know he's only 13. I know he's going to beat me tomorrow because I'm going to be grumpy and tired, no doubt. But it's all good talking about Spurs, and we're not talking about a defeat, so that's all good. But yeah, if you want to follow me on X at Dearman9, that'd be great. And I'll be back on Thursday, isn't it? Yeah, the next one. Thursday for me, where I'll be talking about our win against Frankfurt and our progression to the semi-final of the Europa League.
Hopefully. Yes, fingers crossed. Craig, thank you so much for all of the work you do on this podcast. I know you do a lot of background work, and a lot of people are enjoying your thoughts of the day videos and all the other things that you do. So thank you so much for all of your work. Ricky, thank you so much for your time. As always, people absolutely love your opinions. People always stop me in the stadium saying how much they enjoy you on this podcast. So thank you so much. What are you up to at the moment? And I've seen we haven't had a chance to even talk about this personally, but I've seen on social media you've got this event with Danny Dyer. Tell us all about it. Wow.
Firstly, let me just say to everybody that says a little something to you when they see you in the stadium, thank you guys, much appreciated. I know I rant on here sometimes and I go all over the place, but it's very kind of it's lovely to have a place to share it and a community to share it with. So bless you, thank you. Yes, okay, so I'm hosting an event on the 9th of May. It's actually at the AFC Wimbledon Stadium. And it's a night with Danny Dyer. So I'll be hosting with him. We'll be going through the highs, the lows, and loads of funny stories. We'll probably chat about UFOs as well, Craig. So that should be fun too. Because, he's seen an alien, supposedly. But we'll get into that on the night as well. And, Danny is a funny guy. I worked with him on EastEnders, and we're both East London born and bred. So
Rick, yeah. He's seen an alien.
Yeah.
In Canning Town, really?
Not in Canning Town. He saw it in Vegas. He was doing a show. I can't remember what the show was called, but he was doing a show where he was going around and he went to, like the alien, what is it, ranch or whatever it is in Nevada.
Oh, Skinwalker Ranch.
Not Skinwalker, but it was another one of those in Nevada.
Yes. Can I just say, for anyone who has just started tuning in, yes, this is the Spurs Chat podcast.
Yeah. I'll tell you more in the WhatsApp, Craig. Do you know what I mean? But,
Me and Ricky will be starting up a UFO Chat podcast next
week. I would love that, mate.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
But yes, so I've known him for ages. But it's been an honour to work with him as well on Eastie. So we'll have a great banter. We'll have a great back and forth, and it should be a lovely night. All raising money for the Paul Strank Charity Fund. and they do charity events every single year. They're lovely people, and I'm just really, really happy that I could be a part of it and just, you know, get up there and have a giggle with Danny Dyer. So that'll be happening 9th of May. Check out my Instagram for that. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
Ricky, best of luck with that. That is absolutely brilliant. So if we can help in any way and put the links everywhere, all over the channel, we certainly will. So hopefully people can get involved and support the cause and buy tickets.
Awesome.
Blake, thank you so much. I know you've got to go to work now, so thank you so much for your time and your input today and your positivity. Where can people find you?
Thanks so much, guys. Been great to be on with you. An awesome panel. Rick, finally good to be with my London brother over there in the UK. And you guys, like the work that gets put into this show, Chris. Full kudos to you, mate. You know, I just love coming on here. It's a great platform to express how you're feeling as a Spurs fan, and you know, we as fans have this platform because of you. So thank you so much for all that you do, and Craig in the background, Rick for being an absolute superstar too. It's been great to be with you guys. Mr. Blakey D on X. I'm not too active, but share some stuff from time to time. And yeah, I love being part of this show. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Blake, Craig, Ricky. You've been great as per usual, and we will be back with another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast on Sunday, when hopefully Spurs have gone to Molineux and beat Wolves in the Premier League, because we certainly need the points in the Premier League. A big thank you to everyone. We have reached 164,000 subscribers today, which is unbelievable. It doesn't seem that long ago since I said that we were approaching 100,000, and now we're at 164, which is unbelievable. So thank you so much to everyone who listens. And we were also number 2 in Japan this week in the podcast charts. So yeah, unbelievable. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support all around the world. It is 1 o'clock in the morning now, so we are off to bed. Blake's off to work. We will see you on Sunday. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.
Come on. Let's go.